guys, welcome back to another episode of the Whisky Diaries. My name is Burnett Lane, we're here at Death and Taxes, and today we're going to be talking about one of the single bottlings for Benriach. This one is a Marsala Cask, a 20-year-old whiskey. A little bit of history on the whiskey itself, on the distillery itself. Benriach was created in 1898 by Mr. John Duff. John Duff created Longmorn 3 years before that, and it was created during the whiskey boom, at the end of the whiskey boom in the 19th centuries. The whiskey boom happened during the phylloxera phase. Phylloxera is a disease that basically killed all brandy, all vineyards in France and around Europe. So there was a lack of brandy and cognac and sherries and wines in general, so people started drinking a lot of whiskey, obviously, because they needed something to drink. So Scotch started to become really popular, and obviously all the distilleries took advantage of that, so they started opening and buying and the left, right, and center, and eventually the boom collapsed in the early 1900s, and Benriach basically was one of those distilleries that didn't particularly close down, but they stopped producing single bottlings, and they basically started producing all the whiskey was going to other distilleries and other blends. That happened until the 1960s, when the distillery got taken over by Seagram's, and then in the 1980s, 1990s, Pernod Ricard took it over. Then a little group was formed in the early 2000s, in which they took over Glenronach, Glengarsaw, and Benriach. That little group got bought later on in 2016 by Brown-Forman. Now, in the 1970s, Benriach decided to start creating peated whiskey, not only for the single bottlings, but for other blends as well. And what they wanted to do is just replicate what the Highland whiskies used to be in the early 1900s, which they were like Highland whiskies that you were slightly peated and so on and so on. Now, because of the amount of blends, that Benriach was supplying to, they experimented a lot with a lot of casks. Benriach, I've been to the distillery myself, and they have so many different barrels, so many different experimentations. So Brown-Forman, well, for the last 20 years or so, for the last 10 years, Benriach was, obviously they want to move these casks, so they've been doing single bottlings. Benriach and Glenronach, both of them are very popular. Well, not very popular, but they're very well known for producing single bottlings with all different barrels. In this particular case, it's a Marsala cask. There's also Claret, there's also South American, there's port, there's so many different types of single bottlings that they release, and they're all incredible, to be honest. I don't mind it. This one, the main part about it as well is that they put all the information on the front of the label. They don't hide anything, and this one in particular, I can just read it out loud from you. This is bottle 117 out of 414 bottles. This is a Marsala hogshead. So a little information on the hogshead. It can be, the definitions between Europe, American, and the rest of the world is very different. Basically, you can have anything from 210 liters to a 550 liters barrels. In America, a hogshead is considered to be 550, but in the wine industry, for instance, is considered to be 230, and so on, like all the way, all across the range. For my guessing, this would be a 230, 240 liter barrel. So just a little bit of information on that. If you don't know, the smaller the barrel, the more surface area the whiskey has, so the more flavor imparts. So the bigger the barrel, the lighter the spirit in general. That's the general rule. Also, then you have, it's a first fill, second fill, and third fill, and then we can go into spend another 2 hours talking about barrels themselves. But regardless of this was distilled in the 25th of the 11th of 1997, and it was, well, this was put in cask, and then the bottling was 2018, so it's 20 years on the bottle. A bottle 54.8 ABV, so it's a full cask strength whiskey, and it's non-chill filter. Non-chill filter means that they don't filter the whiskey, meaning that if this whiskey, you put ice on it or you put it on the shelf in a really cold place, the little oils from the distillation in the spirit will start to condensate or concentrate basically, and it will go cloudy. Chill filter was introduced in the 80s just purely for aesthetic purposes. Some very famous whiskey lovers out there believe that chill filtering takes flavor out of the whiskey when they do the filtrations, but there's no real proof done by that. A lot of blind tasting has been done and research has been done, and there's no noticeable for our palate, not noticeable difference between a chill filtered and non-chill filtered. Regardless of that, a full natural I will always say the full natural whiskey, for me personally, because I'm a romantic, sometimes it sounds better, and automatically, if it sounds better, you believe it's better, placebo effect in your brain will tell you that it's better, regardless of that. Regardless of if you can taste it or if you cannot. A little bit of specs, if you want to put it that way, of the distillery. You got, they produce 2 million litres a year. The fermentation goes between 48 to 50 hours, which is pretty standard. Some distilleries go to 70, some other distilleries go to 40. Then the neutral grain spirit comes at 68% ABV. And as I said, they have like a massive barrel program similar to Glenronach, in which they experiment with so many different types. Anyway, this one is a brand new bottle. I actually have never tried this myself. So we're just gonna open it. There it goes. The color of this bottle is actually pretty cool. There it goes. It's kind of like an orange hue. We have reviewed the 21-year-old and the 10-year-old for Benriach, and usually they do blend between 4 different barrels or 3 barrels. So it's very interesting to see what the whiskey tastes when it's actually one single barrel. Marsala, I forgot to mention this. Marsala is a type of, I would say almost sherry, that is equivalent to sherry, but from Sicily. Not quite. It's basically a fortified wine in Sicily, Marsala in Sicily. Basically, they produce a secco, a dry, so a dry, a sweet, and a super sweet type of fortified wine. But it's basically similar to what you will find in sherry. So the nose is actually lots of peaches and fruity. That's basically Benriach. Benriach produces a very Highland style of whiskey. They don't try to, besides the experimentation with barrels and all that stuff, the new make spirit is quite straightforward. So you definitely get what you would get out of a normal Highland malt, which is not a bad thing. It's just what Highland malts are known for. So that fruity nose, lots of pear, lots of apples. This one in particular has a very peachy or apricot smell. Oh, that's delicious. 54% ABV, it is up there. It doesn't need really a lot of water to this, to be honest. I'm surprised how smooth this is. But a little bit of water will go great lengths just to open up the whiskey. As I said, you always want to try the whiskey first, just to see how strong it is, and then add water after, just to balance it out, because otherwise you don't want to put too little water or too less water. But with water, it's the same as salt. You rather add less and keep adding than add it too much and then you can't take it off. So anyway, so that's about it, guys. That's a great, definitely really good whiskey, worth getting if you actually have it, if you can find it. And we'll see you next time. Slanja.